So we're 277 miles from Lee's Ferry. The Grand Canyon at the National Park, they'll tell you that Grand Canyon is 270 or 275 miles long, and they're counting from Lee's Ferry, the exact trip we've taken from Lee's Ferry to here, because when you start at Lee's Ferry, there aren't major walls above on either side of the river, and then quickly you start floating into the major walls of the Grand Canyon, and we've been in them all the way until here, where we're going across, I think, what must be one of the world's most amazing transitions in physiography, in just the way the topography, the way the landscape looks. Behind us, the Grand Canyon, the end of the Grand Canyon is very visible. The now familiar layers of the flat-lying rocks that make up the Paleozoic strata of Grand Canyon are laid out beautifully for us to see. But when we turn and we look west, we see a new thing. The walls of the canyon have disappeared. We're going across a major fault line called the Grand Wash Fault, which gave rise to the Grand Wash Cliffs. And out beyond us is the Basin and Range Province. So this is the boundary between the Colorado Plateau to our east and the Basin and Range to the west. So it's a change in landscape, but it's much more than that to a geologist. It's a change in the tectonics of the way blocks behave in response to plate tectonic movements. Back here, the Colorado Plateau, those flat-lying layers were deposited horizontally, and they are still horizontal after 500 million years. That's a resistant block that has not succumbed to the forces of compression and extension as much as out here in the Basin and Range. To the west, the Basin and Range has been stretched to twice its original length. As blocks are pulled apart and dropped down, we get tilted strata, we get basins where sediment accumulate, and we get ranges where the tilted layers are exposed. So the Basin and Range is tectonically different than the Colorado Plateau. And this fault, the Grand Wash Fault, has huge displacement. It has about 5 kilometers of displacement of the horizontal layers been dropped down like this, so they're tilting back towards the plateau. And the question is, everyone agrees, Basin and Range side has moved down relative to the Colorado Plateau. But I think the new EarthScope experiment has shown us with mantle images of this part of the country, and other geologic studies are suggesting that it may be that the Colorado Plateau has moved up relative to the Basin and Range. Everyone agrees Basin and Range down relative to the Colorado Plateau, but what's the absolute movement? And the mantle upwelling possibility that's shown by the mantle images is that the Colorado Plateau has actually been lifted up as much as 500 meters or a kilometer in the last 10 million years to give us this magnificent physiographic difference between the two provinces.